What is going on, everybody? I am back today to do a review of a new horror film that is apparently directed by my doppelganger, funny enough. And if you guys have been watching me for a while, obviously I'm joking, but if you've been watching me for a while and you've ever read through the comments, specifically on my more popular videos, I swear to God that I get like, you look like Chris Stuckmann, like one every other video. And I always joke about it. It's funny because Chris and I are both from Ohio, and I just think that that's really strange. But what I wanted to start the video with is I'm not like a huge YouTube content consumer. Like, I don't like subscribe to a lot of channels and watch a lot of content. In the movie review scheme, I was a huge Red Letter Media fan for a long time. I still really like them, but like with my life and how things go, I don't get to watch as much as I used to. And I've seen a couple of videos here and there from Chris. And what I will say about Chris as a human being, he seems like a really genuine and wonderful person. And I get like taking on the task of like critiquing film for a very long time and like putting your honest thoughts out there for the entire world to digest. It's very daunting. And then to say, I want to go make a movie, there's a lot of risks taken in that because you can get really positive, incredible feedback, or you can have people completely dog on the project that you're doing. And so, like, as someone who went to school for film production, who talks about a movie every day, I can understand how daunting that is. But I always want to support people like that. I want to go out and see the movies that they create and support that because I think that it's really cool when you appreciate and love a medium so much that you want to, try your best at doing the thing that you've been critiquing for so long. And so I saw AMC was doing a Screen Unseen horror edition, and deducing it felt like it was probably going to be this movie. And so I got a chance to check it out early. And the film I'm going to be telling you about today is Shelby Oaks. Shelby Oaks is directed by Chris Stuckmann. A woman's obsessive search for her missing sister leads her into a terrifying mystery at the hands of an unknown evil. So, like I said, Chris seems like a really nice guy. I was very excited to watch this movie because clearly he was very, very passionate about it. Mike Flanagan even put his name on this, which, if you guys are familiar with me, Mike Flanagan is one of my favorite modern horror directors. I think he's a genius. He's made a lot of really incredible work throughout his whole career, which made me really excited to watch this movie. And unfortunately, I did not like this at all. I think there are things about it to really appreciate. I think that Chris clearly has a talent and a knack for certain things, but I think the screenplay here is incredibly weak. I think that the movie has a really hard time balancing its tone, and I think it also has a really hard time at utilizing specific methodology when it comes to the creation of horror in a way that logistically makes sense. It sort of jumps from thing to thing to thing, which makes it really hard to kind of invest yourself wholly. And it also is a movie that wears its influences on its sleeve almost to a fault, where it feels like it's not a director utilizing something that they really appreciate, but putting their own spin and interpretation on it. It just feels like, oh, there's that thing, oh, there's that thing, oh, there's that thing, to a point where it kind of loses the charm that it builds up early on in the movie. And I'll talk about that a little bit when I break it down for you today. So at the beginning of the movie, we're introduced to the whole concept of the film through this mockumentary style found footage presentation. And we are told early on about a young woman by the name of Riley Brennan. And we are getting these interview segments from her sister, Mia. Mia is essentially saying her sister disappeared, and there's all these rumors and speculations surrounding what happened to her and why she disappeared, but she wants to set the record straight. So we learn really early on that Riley was a kid who was really passionate about art, and she was kind of trying to discover herself through high school, didn't know necessarily what she wanted to do, and eventually discovered YouTube. And in 2008, I believe is the year it references, where YouTube was sort of budding and becoming part of culture, she decided with some of her friends to start a paranormal investigation YouTube channel in a time where like the hunger for that type of content existed in droves. And so She started this and she was really enjoying it. But as they started doing more and more investigations surrounding this small town in Ohio, Shelby Oaks, that was a ghost town, things started getting worse and worse for Riley. And she started to kind of freeze up. You could tell through the footage that she was really uncomfortable. And eventually, one day, when they did a certain investigation, they went back to go to bed for the night and she disappeared. And so her sister has been looking for her now for 8 years. And something happens, and we kind of cut from this mockumentary style to the perspective of the sister. And the sister, Mia, will not let it go that Riley has disappeared. And so the entirety of the film is Mia kind of doing her own investigation into her sister's disappearance and trying to figure out why did she go missing and who could possibly have taken her. So like I said, unfortunately, I was not a fan of this movie, but I will start by talking about the positives. I think the first 20 minutes of this movie is actually really well done. I think Chris clearly showcases, I know he's mentioned before in interviews that he's a big fan of the film Lake Mungo, which is a genuinely fantastic found footage film. And I think this movie does a really great job early on in that first 20 minutes balancing the found footage mockumentary style and really kind of drawing you in with a very compelling narrative. I think the establishment of like her disappearing and the footage that you're getting of her and her friends doing these paranormal investigations mixed in with her sister, who seems to genuinely be emotionally invested in her and worried about the fact that she disappeared. All of those elements early on in the movie really sort of balance together to create something that is very compelling and interesting. Cinematographically, the movie looks really nice. I think Chris did a nice job working with his director of photography to ensure that this has atmosphere. And I think the movie does have really nice atmosphere. There's a lot of creepy, unsettling moments, especially there's like an abandoned prison that is one of the big moments in the film that I thought worked incredibly well. And I really love that level of aesthetic. Obviously, with Mike Flanagan's name on here, I know Chris appreciates Mike, and I feel like there are moments visually in this film that parallel things that I like about Mike Flanagan's work. And that was another strong part of the film for me. But that's pretty much where my positives end and my negatives start to build up. One of the issues that I have with this movie is there is a severe lack of character development in this movie, and I think it is because of how quickly things want to shift. Chris is clearly influenced by a lot of different filmmakers and a lot of movies in the horror genre, and I think he wanted to do something where he could tell a lot of the story without just utilizing expositional dialogue. And I think you can commend a person for that, because so many films nowadays, when you're watching them, it's just droves and droves of expositional dialogue telling you each and everything. But I feel like in this movie in particular, everything that is revealed about what is going on is told through like little subtle visuals, but they're done in such a quick, sporadic manner that it's impossible for really any of it to linger with you for a long period of time, for it to resonate in a satisfying manner. I also really was confused as to the lack of character development, because I feel like the only semblance of anything you get from these characters is in the first 20 minutes of the movie, where we get a little bit of footage of Riley at a young age learning about how much her sister cares for her and loves her, things of that nature that I feel like you see in a lot of different movies. But that's pretty much where it ends. Even Mia, who is the character you're following through most of the movie, outside of tension that she's having with her husband, which feels very cliche and very formulaic and done in a way that is almost getting kind of irritating. I feel like every movie I watch that has a couple in it, if anything supernatural or strange happens, one person in the couple is always like, I don't believe you. And I think that that's really strange, because I think about myself and my partner, and like if my partner came to me and said something's going on and like this is happening, my initial reaction would be to believe them. And I think that that's really frustrating when every movie kind of takes that formulaic approach. And this one in particular, the way it's done, it's just like trying to get those familiar plot beats into you as a viewer in a way that like you feel some kind of emotional resonance, but there's no deep character development. I feel like as these two as sisters, there's so much that you could do to build up that emotional core and to make the audience care more, and it just doesn't exist, unfortunately. The biggest issue with this movie is what I feared would happen with something like this, with someone that's in the film criticism world, which is the references becoming completely and totally overbearing to the point where you're not just taking a product that you love and appreciate and putting your spin on it as a filmmaker. It's just like I've seen that thing before and I'm doing it again. Like the Blair Witch Project stuff is really on the nose. There are moments that reminded me exactly of Lake Mungo. There's moments that reminded me of Hereditary. In the third act alone, there are so many moments that felt directly reflective of Rosemary's Baby. And it's just like, as someone, like, I watch hundreds of movies a year, I release a video every single day. You see these things and you're like, yes, in film, people are going to pay respects and homage to different pieces of cinema. That's just how directors work. But the responsibility of a filmmaker is to put some kind of spin on it or to do something new with it. And this just hit predictable beat after predictable beat. And if it wasn't predictable, it was just kind of lazy. The last 10 minutes of this movie, there was one scene in particular, and I don't want to give anything away because this is so new, but like I almost laughed. I feel like there were so many moments where Chris was trying to build up tension, and there were moments, especially in the end, where there's an eerie character that's introduced, and I just felt like it didn't come across that way. And then it seemed like there was a moment he was trying to play for a comedic punch, and tonally, it was just really messy, unfortunately. And the whole ending, it's just like I've seen this movie 100,000 times before, and it's just not interesting. And it ends on the same cliche note that a lot of horror movies end on. And what's unfortunate is the build up here. You could do something so interesting with the concept that you have created, but just so many of the things that are introduced, it's just like roll your eyes at how so many horror filmmakers have done the same thing over and over again. And it's hard to be really hypercritical because this is this guy's first jump into the filmmaking world and like doing something on his own. But I just felt like this script needed a lot more rewrites. There's just so much about it that is incredibly disappointing. And honestly, I found a lot of it towards the tail end to be really bland. There are some suspenseful moments, but there's really a reliance on jump scares in this movie that for a guy like Chris, I didn't expect. I felt like I was expecting more, the camera holding on things and you seeing things in the background, unsettling imagery that would kind of send chills up your spine. But there's a lot of incorporation of just lazy jump scares in the movie. And I don't know, I just felt like for something like this that's being really hyped up, I expected a lot more. And like I said, this is a first time director. Chris is a really great guy. Like, I don't want to, beat down on him as a person because he's a really wonderful guy who seems to care very deeply for the filmmaking community. I wanted to be a part of it. I just don't think this movie is particularly good. It's not something I'm going to think about much in the future. It's not a movie that I can imagine really wanting to revisit. But I do think if you want to support independent film and you want to support Chris, check it out on your own and see what you think. I just thought the movie was an enormous letdown. So have you seen Shelby Oaks? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Leave me a comment down below and let me know what you thought. I unfortunately was not a fan of this movie at all, but you check it out and let me know in the comments what you thought. As always, if you can like the video and subscribe to the channel, helps me out a lot and lets me know the type of content you're looking for. I'm always putting out new material and look forward to getting more out for you in the near future. And as always, everyone, thank you so much for watching and have a great rest of your day.